Welcome back, friends. We enter the post-kickoff stage of our Robot in 3 Days journey by revisiting the tools we learned in our game theory videos. Perform a mind meld with Colin and Jonathon. Our minds to your minds, our thoughts to your thoughts. Prepare yourself for requirements-based robot design and enjoy our rational odyssey.
Everyone, how's it going? Hope everybody has had some time to digest the game manual and work things out with themselves, get a good read of it. And we are here to get right into breaking down the game theory of this year's game.
Yep. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like kind of showed on the live stream kickoff earlier today. It's a kind of a rehash of a lot of great elements from previous games, and also with some new twists thrown in. So excited to talk that over.
Very, very. I say the added aspect of having a time period where you can't score is something we haven't seen in a while, and it's last I can and only time I can remember is Aim High, 2006's game, and was also a ball shooter. Did provide for some unique challenges and strategy in that era.
Yeah.
That being said, let's just kind of get right into what a rational agent, like you could see in our previous videos that we did to release prior to this live stream. We discussed game theory. If you haven't gone to those, go to our YouTube, check them out. We have a two-part series there where we discussed a rational agent and what it means to be a rational agent, as well as discussed what a rational agent would have done in 2020's game, and just broke down game theory that way.
Yeah, so for those who didn't see it, the quickest, most basic version of a rational agent is a robot who at all times will choose the action on the field that will give you the highest value of points. So they assume we can do pretty much anything on the field, just do whatever the best thing is. And that'll give us a good baseline on what to base all of our other strategies off.
And with that, I'm going to turn into the scribe as we start walking through this year's game.
Yep. All right, so this game actually has a pretty simple list of things you can do to score. Pull this back up here. Do you want to start writing stuff up on the board there?
Auto.
Yep. Yeah, so we got the three basic zones of the match. There's the autonomous period, the teleop period, and the endgame period. Kind of similar to what we've had in past years, and then different ways that you can score in each. So go ahead.
So to start with auto, the two ways you can score is the same two ways as the rest of the game. It's scoring fuel. And this year, actually, we do get to perform our endgame action and autonomous for extra points.
It's pretty cool.
Really neat wrinkle they put in that I find awesome, because usually there's only one way to score an autonomous. And to bring in a second way to score an autonomous is awesome.
Yep.
Autonomous is 20 seconds. So let's break down how a rational agent walks through it. Give me the what's our first thing we're doing?
Yeah, so you can start preloaded with 8 fuel in your robot. So we're definitely always going to do that. First thing you're going to want to do is just shoot all of those out. We'll assume that we're already lined up and ready to go as soon as the match starts.
So have to move off the line, at least, though.
Yeah. We'll do that.
So
so we'll assume, for the sake of argument, that takes 2 seconds.
Okay.
And then shooting your 8 fuel that you have preloaded is another 3 seconds. That brings us
5 seconds total there.
Yep. All right. So now we need to get some more fuel. So we know that the human player will always be able to start with 24 fuel, and that's in a pretty set part that's easy to get to. We can get pretty confident we can fill up the entirety of the robot from there. So we're going to go over to the human player and load up from there. There is the depot that you can also pick things up from. Colin, do you want to discuss why we decided not to go from there?
So as far as that goes, a known position with the same amount of balls with a known dropping point as we're going is a simpler solution versus ground intake in autonomous with trying to track the balls that are there. So knowing a human player dumping in is going to come out the exact same way every single time versus trying to track down a variable, which is a fuel while taking it from the ground is a little less rational.
Yep, so that's why we chose to go from the human player station in this scenario. So now that we've loaded those 24 fuel, we'll assume it takes about 6 seconds to all filter in there, or 2 seconds to load in, and then we'll go and line up and shoot all of those balls, which we'll assume takes about double the time of our last shooting, so about 6 seconds there. And that leaves us with just 5 seconds to go. So the other thing that you can do on autonomous, which is pretty cool, we mentioned earlier, is actually climb the tower. So we're going to go and climb level 1. That's the most points you can get credit for in autonomous. Doesn't make sense to go any higher than that. So we'll go over, climb there, and that'll get us 15 points. And we'll be hanging there at the end of the match or at the end of teleop period to get credit for that. All right, so new to this game is when we go into teleop period, we're going to be what is that zone called? The MV?
So the transition phase, I believe, the first 10 seconds there of teleop.
Yep. So during the transition phase, we are gonna have both sides of the field active to be able to score. However, we currently don't have any fuel in our robot because we already shot all of that out. So what we're going to do instead is just get ourselves down from climbing. Assume that takes about 3 seconds, and then start moving into the neutral zone. And what that's going to allow us to do is start loading a bunch of fuel into our robot, preparing us for when our active phase comes up, and also trying to get some fuel away from your opponent alliance so that they will have a harder time getting stuff to score with.
And with this, we are under the assumption that we outscored our opponent in autonomous, so we are not looking to load immediately to score.
Yeah, so the way this game works, if you haven't looked at it, is whoever has the higher points at the end of autonomous will have their inactive phase happen first. So we are going to assume that our first phase that we're going to go into after the transition phase is our inactive phase. So during that, we really can't score anything. So what we're going to do is focus on playing defense. So there's a few ways to play defense. You can play active defense, trying to stop your opponent robots from getting to certain places or shooting or picking up whatever, just basically robot to robot contact. You can also try to do some fuel starvation. So getting fuel away from them as much as you can. There is no limit on the number of fuel that you can control in your robot. So we're going to try to scoop up as much as we can, and then also just generally cause chaos, just pushing fuel around the field away from wherever they want it to be.
Okay.
All right. So
but with this, we also, a rational agent's job is to score as many points as possible.
Yes.
So it has to take into concern that last 5 seconds of the inactive phase. Instead of worrying about what you're doing against the other alliance, you need to start worrying about going and being ready to score as fast as possible when your scoring time can come up.
Exactly.
So we're going to put in another 5 seconds to traverse the field.
Yep. And we're just going to use that to get back in front of our goal after we've already picked up during that inactive phase, and just get ready to start shooting as soon as we get active. So that brings us to the end of that first phase. So we're going to swap on over, and now we're active. So the first thing we're going to do is shoot all of those fuel again. We're going to assume that it takes 6 seconds again, just like we had before. And then once we're done with that, if you remember, we picked up from the human player in our first loading. So we actually still have those 24 fuel in the depot. So we're going to go pick those up. We're going to assume that that takes about 5 seconds to load all of the fuel up from there. And then we're going to line up and shoot all of those again for another 6 seconds. What does that bring us to? 17 seconds?
Yeah, I believe that's 17, which at that point, we don't have enough time for another cycle in this game where we need to collect the maximum amount of fuel and move into a place where we can shoot, given that you cannot shoot from the neutral zone. You can only shoot from your team's zone. And now that you have collected and shot all balls, your 24 human player balls in auto, and your 24 depot balls here in the first active phase,
Mhm.
you do not have time to traverse into the neutral zone, collect enough balls, and get ready to shoot. But you do have enough time to start collecting balls from the neutral zone.
Yep.
To starve them from your opponent as you go into the next inactive phase.
Yep. So this is going to be very similar to our first inactive phase. We're just going to get to that middle zone and start doing that same thing. So basically take that last inactive phase, do it all over again. We're going to play some active defense. We're going to suck up as much fuel as we can. And then towards the end of it, just go straight back to our side of the field for our final active phase.
And then, so we have now gotten to our last active phase where we went through the same. This is going to be roughly different timing, given that we don't have an easy location like the depot to pick up.
Yep.
But we do have that 8-second cleanup, as well as an end game where we can score those, finish scoring whatever fuel we have not scored yet.
Yep.
So with both sides being active every time in the end game, we know that in those 30 seconds, we have the time to finish scoring from our last active phase. So we can finish 24 fuel.
Mhm.
And that leaves us probably, I mean, we'll assume that's another full 6 seconds. Say we only picked them up, we didn't score
Yep.
them.
Yep.
That leaves us 24 seconds in the end game. There might be some fuel in your zone. There might not be. To secure the climb, we will assume that we're moving to that directly after finishing the scoring of the 24.
Yep. So that's going to be 30 points at the end of the match, just being able to do that. And then we'll end our match there. So that's basically our full rational agent, one robot trying to maximize points as best as they can by themselves.
And so with that, how much are we scoring here? So in auto, we've scored 8 because every ball is worth 1 point plus 24. So that's 32 fuel. 32 fuel.
Yep. And then
Plus 15 climb for a 47-point auto.
Yep.
And then in tally-up, assuming we are scoring in our 2 active phases both times, we are scoring 48 fuel in each active phase. This one does assume that we had already been loaded, so that is why the finishing of that one is there.
Yep.
So we can only count one of these twice. So 48 plus another 24 towards the end game, but we're going to take it 48 fuel here. Or I apologize. 48 plus 24 here is a 72 fuel, 0 climb, because you cannot be counted for climb and tally out.
Yep.
It's 72 points. And then you have finishing of the 24 fuel.
Yep.
Plus 30 climb. For 54 total point in the end game. That leaves us with a total of, quick math, 126 plus 47,
173.
173 points.
Yep. And if we give a breakdown of that between climbing and fuel, that's 45 points of climbing. And then whatever the remainder of that is, 128 points of fuel.
That puts us over the charge threshold by ourselves.
Yep.
As well as only needing 5 more for the transversal RP. As we've mentioned in our rational agent videos prior, the goal of this is to score the absolute maximum. We're not going to say every robot should be able to do this. We're saying the minimum for the best robot in the world is going to do this.
Yeah.